Hello everyone. I wanted to take a moment to explain the installation of the Badlands, which is a Harbor Freight brand wireless winch remote control that I have installed on my Smittybilt XRC 12,000 pound winch in my 2011 F-150. So the wiring of this is not a direct replacement. In a sense, the controller that comes with this remote is shown here, and the wiring harness for it is in the package, which I've since installed. The problem with it is that the connector for the controller box, which you can see is mounted on the back side of my winch controller here, the connector is not compatible with Smittybilt. Now, I'm fortunate enough on my system with my Smittybilt, shortly after I got it, one of the connecting pins of the connector itself had kind of rotted, if you will, on it. So this is what that looks like. So this was the original one here, the original cover, and you can see where one of the pins right up here had rotted out. This was when this thing was maybe 3 months old. So still under warranty. Smittybilt was very good about sending me not just the new cover, which is really all that was needed. On the underside of this cover, you can see where I've cut the harness off, but all they would have to do is just simply replace just the cover, and the connection here could have been given to me, and that would have been all I needed. However, Smittybilt decided to send me the entire controller mechanism and an entire wire harness for this, so I've got an awesome spare. So thanks, Smittybilt. That said, it also made it very easy to kind of mock up the installation of this Badlands winch remote. So what you need to do is very simple to hook this up. What I simply did was I mounted the controller box for the winch, which contains the antenna portion of this as well. The controller box for that I just screwed into the back side of my Smittybilt controller, and then here's the output cable from this. So with that output cable, I simply drilled a hole into this back corner here of the Smittybilt and ran that in. Then internal to it, and I'll jump over to my spare unit here. Internal to this is what you're going to see when you remove this cover. So on this harness, what you're going to do is you simply have the connections for the Smittybilt, which are just 3 connections, right? So the yellow-green is actually the hot wire. So the cool thing is, on the Harbor Freight side, it also has a yellow and green that serves the same purpose as hot. So just wire that one yellow and green to yellow and green. Then the blue and brown are basically for your forward and reverse directions, which made up correspondingly to the Badlands controller as well. Where it differs a bit is on the Badlands, it has an extra wire, and that extra wire is a black wire, which serves as your ground. So what you're simply going to do with that is just wire that back to your Smittybilt controller. So what I simply did was I put a terminal on here and simply attached right to what Smittybilt is using as its ground, and just added one more connection to this screw connection here. And then basically I just tucked all that inside of the box, and that's pretty much it. Now you can see I have a switch that I also added on top of this, and this is really just for safety. Without the switch, everything will work just fine. The problem is everything works all the time, meaning that if you have your wireless remote controller, say inside your cab somewhere, and somebody picks it up and presses a button, your winch is going to activate. So I thought that to be very dangerous. Someone could get hurt, or something could break as a result. So what I did was basically wire up a master disconnect. So all I did with that was I simply wired it directly to my hot, and basically I have a disconnect for that. So very simple to install, and then I just got a cheap old toggle switch and threw it on right here. So when it is in the off position, which is in now I can take the controller and winch this in or out. You can see the controller light turns on, but the winch does not move at all. On the other hand, if I switch this to the on position, that's all that's necessary. Now basically the system is armed, if you will. So now I can take my remote and simply press out or in, and you can see that everything works just fine. Now I saw some other reviews of this system, and maybe it was of an older one, I don't know, but there was a lot of comments on how the Harbor Freight system had a long delay when you press the button. I'm not really seeing that at all. As you can see here, when I press the out button here, it's literally almost instantaneous. So as soon as I make contact with that switch, the winch activates. So I really don't see any lag whatsoever with this system. I find it works incredibly well. I know Smittybilt offers one for this. It's, you know, depending on where you get it from, it could be anywhere from 150 to 200 bucks. I picked up this unit at Harbor Freight with the 20% off coupon for right around $30. So to me, I figure, hey, you know what, it's going to be probably temporarily used anyway, and so far it works great. I have yet to really field test this. I do use my winch quite a bit, as I do off-road my truck as often as I get a chance, which is usually at least once a month, if not more. And with Smittybilt, you know, they offer the typical handheld winch controller, which is great. It works fine, but you always have to get this thing out, mount it somewhere, you know, run the cables through the mud, step on it, break it, whatever it may be. Here's the connector that you have to plug in, and then that's going to run right in here on the side of this unit. And even with this newer one they sent me, I've been constantly putting dielectric grease on this to keep the corrosion down, but I still have a problem. It hasn't broken yet, but I do have that same pin that broke on my previous unit. This one is building corrosion around that as well. So nonetheless, I try to keep it as clean as I can and constantly put dielectric grease on it every single time I use it. But so far it's lasted, but I do have concerns of that because it has left me in the past where, you know, I needed to use it, the pin's broken, now I can't use my winch. So at least now I have a backup system with the remote. And another huge benefit to this is with this cable type system, I have to connect this, close my hood, drape it over the hood, run it into the side of the cab. And you may not be able to tell on the camera here, but you know, when I'm using this, usually my truck is covered in mud, and with that cable draping everywhere, it, you know, it basically just tears up your paint. So all this finish is just kind of gone right here. I know it doesn't show well on the camera, but trust me, it's quite worn. So now with this remote, I never even really have to get out other than to hook up the cable, get back in, and now I have complete control from inside the cab. So very handy upgrade for, you know, basically an hour or so of work and 30 bucks spent. So anyhow, hope you like this video. Please like, subscribe. Thanks.